Man, what went from Tiffany Henyard stating that she was going to absolutely smoke the competition, win in a Trump-styled landslide? Well, there was a landslide, but it wasn't the way Tiffany Henyard thought it would go. And then she just basically, her lasting legacy, her long-standing legacy, no more meetings. She lost, just hasn't attended a meeting since. And she's got other folks on her team not attending the meetings either. How's this work? Let's get into it. Here we go. What kind of individual does this? You're an elected official. You don't win. You don't win you don't win one of the primaries. And then you just stop showing up, and then you're getting paid for your other job, and you just stop showing up. That's called a loser. That's a loser. That's what a loser does. I'm a quitter. Got so many lawsuits, can't handle them all. I'm a quitter. This is what we're doing. That's what Tiffany Henyard is exhibiting. Total quitter's attitude. So, but what else did we expect? Just get the FBI breathing down her throat. I don't think much is going to come from that. But now you've literally got what? You got a month left. You've got April, and you need to get into May meeting, and they'll have a new mayor in Dalton. You've got things squared away in Township of Thornton. Moving on. The less you hear about me, less you hear from me talking about Tiffany Henyard, the better, because that means Town of Thornship is doing better and Village of Dalton is getting back to where it needed to be. There are only a few weeks left of Tiffany Henyard's term as the embattled mayor of Dalton, and she was a no-show to preside over her final village board meeting. I kind of debated on whether or not to do this podcast, but I'd had a back and forth with Critical Smoker over email and fellow YouTuber, of course. And he was saying, hey, I don't think Tiffany, the word is on the street here in Dalton, is that Tiffany Henyard isn't going to show up for any more meetings. And that kind of stuck in the back of my head. And I'm like, you know what? That sounds like that's something Tiffany Henyard would do. Just no show. Just quit. Be a loser and quit. Because she's being paid by the taxpayers of these communities, and she's just not showing up, not doing her job. Who does that, right? Who does that? Well, a loser does. She lost twice. I mean, just by huge numbers. Henyard was unseated in last week's election by trustee Jason House. That was for the mayor of Dalton, who ran on a platform of cleaning house in the village government. The next step is Dalton United. But as the community works to come together, there are still some things that need tidying up from Henyard's term. Henyard's no-show at the final trustee meeting of her administration is a pattern the village has seen dating back to late 2024. And that's where we had, that's when we had the primary in Township of Thornton, and she just kind of came unglued and just stopped basically doing her job. House defeated Henyard in the Democratic primary and easily won the general election. But trustees they have Stand Brown here. No, it's not Stand, but it's Stan Brown, Tammy Brown, and Andrew Holmes were not up for re-election. Their terms ended in 2027, and Holmes is also a no-show for Monday meetings. So Holmes has not been there for, somebody was saying, I think, up to 7 months. 4, 5, 6, 7 months. Just no Andrew Holmes. He'd be one of those people where you're like, is he going to show up? Probably not. And then he does it and you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty normal. Got that lawsuit, got that sex, lawsuit going on. Charges being, dropped by the Las Vegas police, but you still got a civil lawsuit going on. Fellow trustees said that they're losing count of the last time Holmes sat at the table to conduct his trustee duties. One estimated it's been about 7 months. Holmes was a Henyard ally. He also faced accusations of sexual assault from a former Dalton employee, but no charges were ever filed. No. And Las Vegas police, they just basically said, no, we got no case here. But that's still ongoing, and he's not showing up, and you just got a bunch of nonsense going on. The new administration wants to look into why Holmes is still getting paid, even though he's not showing up to village meetings. I would want to know as well. Mayor-elect House and his administration are exploring the possibility of cutting Holmes from the payroll. Guy's not doing anything. He's not doing anything. And he's going to be on there till 2027. He's going to have to show up. He's going to have to do something. Otherwise, he's just going to get, he's out of there. He's out of there. Here's a quick recap after she lost the primary in Dalton.
In the meantime, very different scene of what was supposed to be Tiffany Henyard's watch party.
WGN's Ben Bradley has her message following the defeat.
Tiffany Henyard was a no-show for her election night party after it became clear that she would lose in a landslide. I did speak with her by phone. She said she accepts the election results. She said, "The people have spoken, and God must have a different plan for me." It was a far cry from the tone she struck earlier in the day when she insisted that she would win in spectacular fashion.
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Delusional. That's what it comes down to. Tiffany Henyard was delusional. Reality, and here's what she was saying. You know what I mean? Just wildly off track from one another.
How y'all doing?
Tiffany Henyard defiant on this decision day in Dalton. Is there anything in hindsight that you would have done differently over these last 4 years?
Yeah, I would have told on the trustees sooner.
The trustees
She would have told on the trustees sooner. Told on them about what? I don't think the trustees have the FBI looking into them or their boyfriend or their associates, Andrew Holmes. I mean, told on them for what? And why, if you're trying to get elected, are you blaming the trustees? You're the leader. You are the leader. You have to take responsibility for being the leader. That means you go down with the ship and you don't blame. It's that guy's fault. It's that guy's fault. Lack of leadership skills. That's what we're seeing. And I think the constituents finally got the clue and they're like, maybe we should get a different mayor. Maybe we should get a different supervisor for the township.
Refers to are her former allies. 4 years ago, they ran as a slate with Henyard promising transparency and accountability. Instead, Mayor, we've left you voicemail messages. We had to go to the Illinois Attorney General's office to
Ben Bradley.
Residents got a self-proclaimed super mayor who spent tax dollars on travel, self-promotion, and a questionable cancer charity.
Let's go back here for a second. You ever wonder what she was doing in Portland? I didn't really look all that hard. What in the F are you doing in Portland? You're from Chicago. What programs exactly? Portland's about as white as it is you can get, right? It just is. Just is. So what exactly, are you checking out the homelessness issue there? Because I haven't heard a whole lot about the homeless folks in, Dalton or Township of Thornton. It doesn't seem to be a massive issue like it is in Portland. So are you checking out the liberal ideology? What are you doing there? Who knows, right? Who knows? At least with Las Vegas, I can work that one out. All right, going to gamble and see some shows and whatever. Who doesn't want to go to Vegas? Or maybe Atlanta. Yep, I can get Atlanta. Austin. Oh, yeah. Who doesn't want to go to Austin? Just have a little trip. New York, of course. But then you got Portland. What are you doing? I mean, yeah. Whatever, right? We're past it. Don't care. But it's like, okay.
Dollars on travel, self-promotion, and a questionable cancer charity. All exposed by WGN Investigates, and now the subject of an ongoing FBI investigation. But why should residents pay for you to stay at the Four Seasons and a $10,000 bill in New York?
We're talking about
first-class
the
travel.
election today. So you guys want some good
Those
footage?
issues are on the ballot,
We've been talking about the same thing for 4 years. I've answered every question possible.
You've never answered that.
So if you guys want to talk about me winning this seat this evening, let's go. I'll sit down with any of you because I want some positive press for a change.
Oh.
Democrats refused to slate Henyard for her other job, Thornton Township supervisor, but she told me that she plans to run as a write-in candidate. That election is April 1st. She also said she's not ruling out a run for higher office, but wouldn't speculate what that could be. She could, though, have problems if the ongoing FBI investigation leads to charges. In Dalton, Ben Bradley, WGN News.
I do miss covering her. She was just so full of crap that it was It was entertaining. If nothing else, she was entertaining. All right. Dalton Board approved several business licenses that owners claim were held up under Mayor Henyard. So Mayor Henyard is just kind of letting the train run, right? The village's next mayor, who takes over in 4 weeks, says a long-term investment in infrastructure improvements is overdue. So remember we had what was the name? I want to say it was like St. Pete's or something like that. The restaurant that was opening up. And they said that Tiffany Henyard had held up their liquor license. They had a handful of liquor licenses. And then Tiffany Henyard and her, I think it was boyfriend, said, we had a different name on the LLC. And it was like, what a bunch of nonsense. And the judge actually went from holding her in quiet contempt to holding her in absolute contempt of court because she wouldn't get these licenses up and running for a business that needed them. So now you've got Mayor Tiffany Henyard was a no-show at the final village board meeting of her one-term administration. Many residents have already turned the page. I think it's important that we have to try and heal and not take old baggage into our new journey. And the new journey being, we're going to start issuing these liquor licenses. Sounds like Tiffany Henyard has completely abdicated her role as leader in both of these environments. At Monday's meeting, trustees including Mayor-elect Jason House, who won at the polls last Tuesday with more than 95% of the vote. 95% of the vote. Tiffany Henyard, just basic no-show. Almost zero no-show at the polls. Approved more than 12 business licenses that owners claimed were held up by the village. This is what she was doing. This is why she got booted out. She doesn't do her job, doesn't show up when she needs to. And when she does show up, holds things up like this. And, just so many different things that went sideways during her leadership. And, at the end of that last segment, when WGN is saying that she's maybe going to look at a higher office, what office exactly would that be? Is she going to go toe-to-toe with Let's Go Brandon Johnson, and we're just going to have a runoff of governor of Chicago, governor of Illinois, and we're just going to see how that goes? Can you imagine Tiffany Henyard, governor of Illinois? Whew, hello. Boy, we would have some podcasts for days there. I'd have to brush up on, all the stuff that I've been missing the last few months because there's just not been a lot gone on with Tiffany Henyard not at the helm. It's been quiet sailing. You haven't missed me because you've had quiet sailing. Just boom, we're just going to go on and do our thing. We do have a long line of businesses that have been done wrong over the last 4 years, and that is stifling the growth of this city and this entire community, said Dalton resident Dan Lee. I like Dan Lee. I thought he was a voice of reason. I know he'd been around for a long time. He's got some maturity. He wants what's best for the village of Dalton, township of Thornton. And I think that's bottom line. Everybody does. So the less you hear from me on this topic, that is better. We're just here to serve every resident, and the days of retaliation and blowback are over, House said. Good. That's the way it should be. Because I'm not doing podcasts in all these other cities because they don't have this kind of nonsense where you've got a loser in office. It would give us some clarity on what we don't know, Belcher said. This meeting comes days after parts of Dalton saw flooding last week. The board says it will work with state representatives in the area to seek disaster funding, and officials say improving the village's century-old infrastructure will be a priority for the next administration. I mean, the current administration, they were lucky to get payroll done. They were lucky to get their insurance policy renewed. They were lucky to hold big bingo, right? Did the village pay for these, 85-inch TVs? Or were they donated? We don't really know. Don't really have any transparency. Does anybody have a receipt? No, receipts are also old school. Yeah, we got them on the statement. Nah, you need to keep those receipts. And everybody needs to know who authorized the purchase of all that, Amazon stuff. We know at least 30 different blocks that have been impacted. So we know infrastructure is a big problem. It's one that we have to tackle as a board. It's one we have to tackle as a community. House and the new village board will be sworn in at the next regular meeting on May 5th. So you got a new mayor coming in. You got that squared away. You've got Dalton squared away. You've got Township of Thornton squared away. But it's going to take a while to, reverse so much of the negativity that Tiffany Henyard brought, because that is literally why everybody started covering this topic, because it was an absolute train wreck until the bitter end. And now the train wreck is she's just a no-show. Just a no-show, just doesn't even show up, doesn't have the courtesy, doesn't have the ability to see how she's perceived as a result of not showing up. She's quite simply a quitter and a loser. There's nothing else you can say, right? So with the exception of maybe what the FBI comes up with the exception of that, probably not going to be doing any more podcasts unless, there's something that rears its ugly head, some other lawsuit, some other major lawsuit. The only thing you've really got left, I know you've got 48 lawsuits in Dalton hanging over the mayor's head, but most of those are going to get dismissed, right? I mean, both sides aren't going to be willing to battle and, take it to the mat like Tiffany Henyard has been, because now she's got nothing. She doesn't have a job. Boyfriend doesn't have a job. He got fired. Tiffany lost both her jobs. What's she going to do? I don't know. Is she living above the car wash? That's what I keep hearing, right? Living above the car wash, almost as bad as living in a van down by the river, right? Wild stuff. No, I will podcast next on this topic when the FBI does its thing, and that'll be one way or the other. I think they're just going to come right out and state we don't have enough to press charges. Yes, there was some indiscretion, but I don't believe it's going to be enough. I think the FBI would have stepped in and made this happen. I think they let both of these elections go through, and maybe we hear from them in June. Something like that. I'm going to throw out June as when we hear on the Tiffany Henyard and the FBI. I don't see there being anything here. I know everybody wants to hear me say, I think she's going to prison. They're going to send her to El Salvador, that really bad prison. They're going to send her there. No, they're not. I don't think there's any repercussions there. If any, it'd be a slap on the wrist and, you should have used better judgment. You should have used better accountability. You should have been more transparent. Little slap on the wrist, way she goes, off to her, whatever it is that she's going to do, moving forward. OnlyFans? I don't know. Nor do I really care. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.